What's up, guys? Absolute Batman 14 landed this past Wednesday, and the issue not only brings us the insane final deathmatch between Batman and Bane, but it also pays off several pieces that Scott Snyder has set up over the first 13 issues. Like whether or not Alfred is truly on Bruce's side in this universe, or if he has another agenda. But that's just one example. I'll also say we were gonna drop this episode right when the book released on Wednesday, but it's so good that at least for our part, we wanted to give it some time to breathe at the local comic shops before breaking it down for you here on the show. And even though you're watching this video now, we cannot recommend enough that you go to your LCS and pick up a physical copy of this book. Not only does it give you the full experience the way the creators intended, but it supports the very creators that bring us these great stories in the first place. And speaking of physical comics, we still have our Killing Joke giveaway going on, and you can find all the info you need to enter to win a 9/8 copy of this iconic Batman key in this video right here. The link for that video is in the description as well, but we've also got our massive holiday collectibles drop up on the Variant Whatnot Buy Now shop right now, and it's full of comics, toys, and other collectibles of every type and price range. And if you create a Whatnot account using our invite link in the description, you'll get a $15 credit that you can apply toward the purchase of anything in our Buy Now shop. So take advantage of that and load up your holiday gift bag. Anyway, with all that said, Absolute Batman 14 is freaking amazing, and if you haven't read issue 13, which is pretty much required reading to understand what goes down here, you can check out our episode on 13 right up here. Other than that, let's jump in. All right, so the first page opens up with a montage that perfectly sets the tone for this issue, as we see both Batman and Bane preparing for their big fight, alongside flashbacks, which is really just Bruce remembering everything that Bane has done to his friends. Alfred, however, is interested in one thing, making sure Bruce has his head in the game, and that he's as prepared as possible for what he knows Bruce is about to face. And he says to him, "It's the fight of your life, kid. You ready?" At which point we see that Eddie is actually present, and he's saying, I'm ready. But as Bruce is distracted by thoughts of Bane and what he's done to his friends, Alfred continues to say, "There's only enough venom in you for 2 infusions. We use 1 infusion now as a test. Make sure your system can handle it. And we use the other in the ring against Bane." We then get a bunch of panels showing the last interactions Bruce had with several people, including Wayland, Selina, Harvey, his father, and his mother. But Alfred is all business, and he pulls a pistol and holds it up to Bruce's head as he says, "Kid, if your system takes to it, we're good. If not, I'll make it quick. Now what do you want to do?" Followed by Absolute Batman gritting his teeth and saying, "Let's go to freaking war." We then get a crazy splash title page for the conclusion of the Abomination story arc, with Bruce completely baned out, looking like a roid-raged monster with spikes protruding from his back. It's insane. It's just so good. But we gotta keep going, and as we turn the page, we see a news broadcast with the mayor of Gotham, Mayor Hill, stepping up to a podium to give a statement. He says, "Fellow Gothamites, I am here tonight to assure you that despite what the terrorist Batman claims, there are no monsters hidden away beneath our streets. In fact, the only monster in this city is him, and whatever dangerous theatrics he was planning tonight at Veterans Arena will not be happening. Still, we insist that everyone honor the 11 p.m. curfew put in place after the Black Mask attack, and remain home and safe from the Batman's lawless violence." But here's the thing, in these last 2 consecutive panels, we see citizens watching the mayor give this statement on the news. In the first, it looks like Jim Gordon with his daughter Barbara, making this the first appearance of Absolute Barbara Gordon. But the second one is an EMT who looks like he just came home from work, which we know from his first appearance in Absolute Batman issue 9 is Dick Grayson. Anyway, from here we are taken back to Mayor Hill, who's now off camera and is talking to Harvey Bullock. And like a true politician, we see that everything he just said on TV is a total lie, and the exact opposite is true. He's actually working directly for the Joker or for Bane, as he tells Bullock, so the fight happens at midnight. Bullock, "It came straight from above. No one gets within 10 blocks of that place, except for Batman and him." Harvey agrees, saying, "Yes, sir." And on the next 2 panels, we are introduced to another character, this one also nameless, but I can't quite make out who this is, but it clearly is someone we are going to be introduced to later down the line. Either that or I'm just forgetting something entirely. It's very late, so that's very possible. But this person is staring at one of Batman's cowls saying, I don't know if you can hear me, but if you can, I hope you have a good plan. Then from here, things really start to ramp up as we are taken to Arc M, where Bane is walking with and talking to Dr. Arkham. The doctor tells Bane, you should be aware, according to our data, Subject 27 likely still has at least one infusion left in his system. To which Bane responds, I'm counting on it. If his system tolerates the venom, he can be your new project from now on. Dr. Arkham then responds, fair enough, because with the enhancement, there's no comparison. Meaning the procedure that we saw Bane going through in issue 13 has taken this dude to yet another level. However, despite this enhancement, Dr. Arkham does tell him, but Bane, after this fight, your system will need a long rest, which is exactly what Bane is after anyway, and he tells her, the heart's only true nurse. All I want is rest, Dr. Arkham. One more fight, one more, and I'll have it. We are then taken to Veterans Arena as we see Bane walking through the tunnel and out onto the field. But we also get a flashback of Waylon Croc Jones walking out of that same tunnel on his fight night against Bibbo Babowski. That's right, in this issue, we also get the payoff for what happened with Waylon Jones and his fight against Babowski, which includes what happened between Bruce and Waylon after Bruce tried to convince him to throw the fight because he didn't think he could win. But let me not get too far off course. We then see Bane walking out into the darkened field saying, well, here I am. But when no one responds, he screams, I said, here I am. Where's your champion? At which point we see Harley Quinn running through the stadium seats holding a rifle while saying, light 'em up, guys. Followed by the arena lights kicking on to reveal Absolute Batman standing center stage. And now with Batman and Bane face to face, Alfred chimes in from what I can only assume is the Batmobile saying, all right, kid, here we go. Remember the plan. You wear him down, keep at him until he uses up all his venom, and then when he's got nothing left, you use yours. But Batman cuts him off and tells him to stop talking. Bruce then cues Harley, who screams, make him famous. Smile, boys, as we see a member of the Red Hood gang launch a butt ton of drones to air the fight between Bane and Batman for all of Gotham. Bane then looks at Batman and says, ah, the Great Republic watches. I hope you've learned some new techniques so we can give them an actual spectacle. Let's see. Now, I don't know about you, but this is completely reminding me of the scenes in The Dark Knight Rises where Bane takes over Gotham. But before we see what happens next, as someone who is constantly researching, writing, and editing for the show, I needed a browser that could actually keep up with my kind of multitasking demands. And that's where today's sponsor, Opera, comes in. This browser is sleek, it's smart, and it's built for power users like you and me. First off, tab islands might be my favorite feature because it allows me to group all my tabs by topic with, let's say, comics in one island, team projects in another, and merch projects in a third. It just keeps everything super clean and I can expand or collapse them whenever I need. But then there's the split screen feature. Say I'm fact checking a Spider-Man storyline on one tab while adding notes for an edit on another. I can just drag one tab down, drop it, and boom, perfect dual view. No more flipping between tabs or multiple browser windows like I'm John Anderton scanning precog visions. If you get that reference, you're one of my people. Anyway, the detachable music player is also great. I can stream from Spotify or any of the 7 streaming services available right inside of Opera. Then I can pop the player out and move it wherever I want, even outside the browser. And the music automatically pauses when I start a video, which is just a genius touch. I also love how customizable the themes are. You can change everything, colors, animations, even browser sounds. I've currently got the Aurora theme going, but I'm also a sucker for the Legend theme. So if you want a browser that's fast, powerful, and customizable, check out Opera using the link in the description or the pinned comment below. You can thank me later. All right, jumping back to the story, we are then taken to a flashback and the beginning of the Octagon match between Waylon Croc Jones and Bibbo Babowski. As the captions symbolically say, and here they go, a true David and Goliath match. The shocking thing is that Jones seems to have no one in his corner, no trainer, nobody. He's a man alone. And this is followed by Bane telling Batman, so, your move. At which point we see Batman step on a device that turns out to be a detonation trigger. This then strategically sets off explosives that are towering over the arena. Bane then looks up as the building breaks in half and begins to collapse inward as Batman says, "I call this move welcome to Gotham," as an entire building crashes down onto Bane as a first strike from Batman, which I'd say, is a pretty solid first move. But here's the craziest part. All it does is tick Bane off. And again, I love that we're getting these symbolic cutbacks to the fight between Wayland and Bibbo, and the narration perfectly aligning with what's happening between Batman and Bane. As we see the fight commentators saying Jones comes out swinging. Southpaw too, seems he has a trick or two up his sleeve. And this is followed by Alfred flying in what turns out to be a new Batmobile, or at least some kind of a new Bat assault vehicle. It's insane. Alfred just screams incoming as Bane tells Batman, "You think I don't see what you're doing, little one?" Alfred then tells Batman, "I'm locked in, kid," and Batman screams fire, at which point we see a Bat assault vehicle launch a couple of spears into the back of Bane and then rams him straight through. Flashback fight commentary then says 3 rounds into this heavyweight bout and Jones is still bringing it to the champ. And this is also where we start to get internal dialogue from Alfred saying, "As I come around to hit Bane again, I make the mistake of glancing at him. He's already healed, but how? And his size, something is wrong. His speed too, I'm tumbling through the air before I knew it," as we see that Bane has now just swatted this Bat assault vehicle like it was nothing. As he screams, "Come on, is that all you've got?" Alfred's dialogue then says, "But what Batman lacks in power and speed, he makes up for it in brutality." We then see Batman flying through the air and use his kinetic cape to spear Bane in the eye and rip it out of the socket. And Dragata did not spare a single detail as Alfred continues to say, "He's a genius at violence, and I've known some prodigies in my day. But him, he moves like a man ecstatic, a man born to do this very thing. He doesn't hesitate, not even when Bane regrows his eyeball." Yes, as we see Batman using his cape to slash and hack away at Bane, we see his eyeball regrowing in the socket. But it also seems like with every single panel, Bane is just getting bigger. I freaking told you, this issue is nuts. Anyway, Alfred's dialogue continues. The kid revels in it, the bringing forth of blood from those who deserve it, the blood of people who never see their own in the open air, people so powerful they've almost forgotten what courses through their own veins, until Batman shows them in red spraying arcs. And this is alongside an image of Batman running up Bane's back, slashing open his flesh with 2 batarangs before attempting to leap back to the arena floor. However, Bane gets a hold of his cape, and as Alfred screams, "Kid, no!" Bane slams Batman to the ground, but not just once. He starts to flail him back and forth, slamming him to the ground repeatedly, just like the Hulk did to Loki in the first Avengers film. You know what I'm talking about. And as Bane is flinging Batman around, he's telling him, "We're not that different, you and me. The truth is, I look at you and I see myself, young, stupid. But playtime is over." He then hovers over Batman and says, "Use it. It's your only move." But Batman proves he's got more tricks up his sleeve and he responds, "Not quite." As we see Harley Quinn scream, "Release the green machine." At which point members of the Red Hood gang open a trap door in the ground and release Killer Croc onto Bane. He comes flying out of the ground and just immediately goes after Bane like it's the freaking Coliseum. Croc then wraps himself around Bane and starts to tear at him and rip chunks of his flesh off, while Batman then unleashes the axe from his chest and starts to chop away at Bane's legs. However, Alfred continues to tell us Bane infuses more venom. I can hear the sickening squelch of muscle fibers multiplying, thickening. He grows bigger, impossibly big. The wounds close. Even as we continue to see Batman slice huge gashes into Bane's flesh. Batman then says, "What, no fancy quote?" At which point Bane picks him up off the ground and chucks him into the stands while saying, "Toward gnats and fleas we should show no pity." We then flash back to the fight between Wayland and Bibbo with commentary saying, "Champ comes roaring back. This could be trouble for Jones." As we move into the latter half, who expected this to be a classic? Followed by a view of Falcone cheering as Bruce and Selina then turn and start to walk out. And they're leaving because they know that Wayland has no intentions of throwing this fight. And considering the promises they made to Falcone, they need to make themselves ghosts before that goes down. Anyway, Harley then gets to Batman, who is collapsed into the upper deck of the stadium, and she tells him, so this is probably when someone gives you a big inspirational speech, but I'm just gonna tell you to get the freak up. Cool? To which Batman replies, cool. Harley then says, now get back in there and save that alligator. Alfred then radios into Batman and tells him, kid, he just keeps infusing more venom. I don't know what his max level is. At which point Bane grabs Killer Croc by his jaws and starts to rip him apart, as Alfred finishes saying, I don't know that he has one anymore. Batman then jumps from the upper deck to save his friend while asking Alfred, what's your point, Pennyworth? To which Alfred responds, my point is, I don't think you can get him to reach some max level at all. If you use the venom now, maybe you can at least get out of, but Batman cuts him off saying, no, we stick to the plan. And as we see Batman just straight up free diving into Bane like some sort of Viking jumping off a mountain into the ice, we see Harley looking on and asking her man, tell me we're still live. And the Red Hood member replies, oh, we're live, boss. We are then taken back to the fight between Waylon and Bibbo, where we see that Bruce has not left the arena, but instead made his way down to the arena floor. Fight commentary then says halfway into the 7th and Jones is barely hanging on, followed by Bruce shoving a security guard out of the way and bull rushing the ring. And this is intercut with more symbolic imagery as we see Bruce come flying in to attack Bane, who's trying to hurt Waylon in real time. At which point it immediately cuts back to the fight where Bibbo has Waylon in a headlock and Bruce approaches him in the ring saying, wait, I'm here. Guys, I've said it before as we've been covering this Absolute Batman run, but Scott Snyder is just writing at such a high level right now. And I just want to take a second and appreciate the Michelin level cookery that is going on over at DC, especially with these Absolute titles. Anyway, on the next page, we see Batman make contact with Bane's back with his axe, splitting it wide open and seemingly paralyzing Bane to the ground. This frees Killer Croc and he just collapses as Bruce tells him, it's all right, Way, go and thank you. I got this. Bruce then climbs onto Bane while saying, I severed your spine at the thoracic, which means you can't use your legs anymore, but that's okay. You still have your arms. Followed by Batman hacking into his spine yet again with his axe to paralyze his arms. He then tells him, oh man, now you can't use your arms either, but hey, you can still bite me. And no, we're not that different. We both lost fathers. The difference is I didn't break my father's back or his heart. But this triggers some kind of next level for Bane as we see the Venom release system seem to explode, transforming Bane yet again. We then also see that Dr. Arkham has been monitoring everything that's going on with Bane, and she tells him, Bane, it's incredible, your system, it's surpassing any limit we thought possible. But as we cut back to Bane and see that he has grown into something monstrous, I mean, dude's as big as a house, he tells Batman, you think you can win? Followed by crashing down a massive blow onto Batman. He then continues to say that you're better than me? You're nothing, as he punches Bruce through the ground. The fight commentary also says this could be it for Jones. Bibbo has a deathlock on that rear naked choke, as we then get an ultra wide shot from high above the arena showing just how big Bane has become, and he's screaming nothing. The now massive and completely deformed Bane approaches Batman saying, me, I've given everything, all so my people and home could be safe, because this is war. It's all war, but I'm done. It's your turn now. And as he slams another brutal blow onto Batman, he screams, your turn, meaning he wants Bruce to use the Venom. He's trying to provoke him to use it so that he will transform into Bane, effectively relieving him of his duty so he can go home to his family and rest. Dr. Arkham then says, I can't believe what I'm seeing. Bane, your cells, they've moved beyond self-repairing and become almost embryotic, undifferentiated. If 27 is anything like you, you're a miracle. Bane then comes in and brings his massive fist down on Batman in another insane blow. As a flashback to Waylon with fight commentary says, Jones searching for some last reserve of strength, but Batman finally seems to have realized that this was the trap all along. This was his trial by fire. This was the test. Could he make it through this without taking the bait, giving into the rage, and using the Venom? But even as Alfred chimes in saying, do it, kid, use the Venom. It's your only chance of making it out of there alive. Followed by Bane, who who now seems to be morphing into something else entirely, tells him, go on, use it. However, a completely battered Absolute Batman just looks at him and says, all right, you win. You want me to use the venom? He then grits his teeth and says, I'll use it. Catwoman, take the shot. We then see Catwoman standing on the top of the arena saying, I got you, as she fires down onto Bane from above. We then get a flashback where we see that Waylon has turned the tides and flipped Bibbo Babowski onto his head, using the champ's own weight against him. It then cuts back for us to see that those rounds that Catwoman fired at Bane went into his spine, specifically the venom release system. As the fight commentator says, do you believe in miracles? Bane then grasps at his back saying, wait, stop. And in true Absolute Batman fashion, he just responds by saying, no, and finishing Bane off by throwing his axe into his chest, at which point we see Bane explode. And I mean literally explode. So I guess they found Bane's upper limits, but Alfred goes on to say, I can't help but laugh then. Laugh like I haven't in years, because this kid, bloody hell. But how? So it turns out Bruce ended up doing the right thing and putting himself on the line for Waylon all those years ago, which inspired Waylon to come back and actually win the fight nobody thought he could win. Then years later, it was his turn to pull out a miracle in the fight of his life, also inspired by his friends. And on the next page, we are taken to 2 days ago where we actually see how this all came together. We see Bruce lying on a table as Eddie works on his spine saying, so how much of this stuff am I taking out of you again? To which Bruce responds, all of it, Eddie, every drop. I'll beat him my way. As we see Selina watching the whole thing. We then also see her injecting venom into those tranquilizer darts she fired into Bane at the end, while telling Bruce, whatever happens, I'm proud of you, Wayne. We then see a flashback of Bruce storming into the octagon as Waylon stands over Bibbo Babowski victorious. This is followed by several more panels intercut between the past and the present, with Batman emerging from the goo that was once Bane, followed by a panel of Bruce lifting Waylon in the air after his victory, as Waylon said, did that really just happen? To which Bruce replies, I freaking hope so, because I just bet it all on you, brother. Waylon thinks he's kidding, but Bruce says, I'm serious, even Falcone's portion. At which point we see Falcone screaming, I want Wayne dead, you hear me? Then with Batman standing in front of what's left of Bane, we get back to the narration from Alfred as he says, now in hindsight, I understand how he won. Batman, I see it. The thing Bane didn't, the thing all kings and generals and masters of war always fail to take into account. That for some soldiers, winning isn't the point, because theirs is a fight that's bigger than any war. It's old as time and immediate as a baby's scream, and there's no end to it, ever. Not really. It's about doing what's right. No more, no less. So for someone like Batman, he's not fighting to win. He's fighting to fight. The fight is the point. For home, for the people he loves. Alongside a couple of panels showing Harvey and Ozzy cheering Bruce on as they recover, Alfred concludes by saying, and I'm grateful to Batman for the reminder. However, we know that Absolute Batman does not end here. This is actually just the beginning of Bruce's fight. Because while he may have beaten Bane, the Joker is up next. And if you've seen any of the teaser images of Joker, and if this story is any indicator, the next story arc against the Joker is going to be out of control. Anyway, to set things up for Absolute Batman 15 and the emergence of the Joker, we see Selina on a plane, and it's revealed that she is escaping with a vial of venom. Then on the final page, we are taken back to Arkham, where we see Dr. Arkham talking to someone in a liquid chamber of some sort. And remember how during the fight when she said that Bane's cells were becoming almost embryonic? Well, it's revealed that they are regrowing Bane inside this chamber. As we see, he's only a set of eyes, a brain, and a part of a spinal cord. Dr. Arkham then says to him, I must say, Bane, you're looking wonderful today. Your cells, they're just such a marvel. But I'm here because someone else wants to talk to you. She then turns her laptop toward Bane, and we see that it's the Joker. And he tells Bane, I just wanted to put your mind at ease. This whole incident, I see it as a minor setback. Now look, I know you were hoping to retire, cede the role, but my sincere belief is that wouldn't make you happy. Not really. Lying around in Santa Prisca with the family? Come on. You love it too much, this war. So as your friend, I'd like to help. At which point we are shown the island of Santa Prisca alongside Joker continuing to say, what was the name of your father's rebel group again? Cielos Libres? What a beautiful name. Free skies. See, that's how I want you to feel from now on, so you can focus on what you really love. Unburdened, liberated, free. As we see a bomber flying over the island and dropping a massive payload with Bane's wife and son looking on, with the final panel showing Bane being forced to watch the destruction of his family and his island. And with that, Absolute Batman issue 14 comes to the end. What can I say, guys, that I haven't already said? This is one of the best comics I have read in a very long time. Not just this issue, but everything that has led up to this issue. Scott Snyder spent 13 issues building up this fight between Bane and Batman. And so often when that happens, the payoff is a little bit weak, or at least the payoff doesn't fully meet the expectations that the buildup created. But that was definitely not the case here. The battle between these two was epic, it was brutal, and it fully revealed Absolute Batman as a hero. It also revealed that Alfred wasn't just egging Bruce on to use the Venom for nefarious purposes. He really just thought that that was what he needed to do to be able to beat Bane. He wanted Bruce to survive. But now with this leading to the story arc where Absolute Joker's final form will be revealed, and with KO in full swing, I cannot help but wonder, how does Bruce get from this heroic moment to where he's being used as one of the horsemen for Darkseid in the tournament? It also leaves us with the question of, where is Selina taking that vial of Venom? Is she working for someone, or is this some sort of backup plan she's establishing? Also, what is going to become of Bane once he is fully regrown? Because now that the Joker has killed his family and destroyed his island, is he going to turn on the Joker? Is he going to become an ally of Absolute Batman? Again, Scott Snyder paid off a ton of setups in this issue, but he also gave us a bunch of new setups for the story arc to come. But I think I've said enough, so now we want to know what you guys think of this issue. Did the final matchup between Absolute Batman and Absolute Bane meet the hype for you guys? And where do you think it's going from here? Jump into the comments and sound off. And don't forget to set your reminders for our big Whatnot Black Friday drop. Information for that is in the description below. Other than that, we will see you next time when we talk about all things comics.